Hello, hello, hello. Dion Johnson here, founder and chief at Dion Johnson Global, the senior leader coaching company, and I coach senior leaders. I'm delighted that you have taken the time to stop by my LinkedIn profile. Over the last 15 years or so, I have been devoted to helping women, CEOs, directors, heads, corporate specialists, experts in their field to own their authority, to step into their power, to express their distinct and unique voice, their true voice, for greater influence and greater impact in their organizations, their industries, and their field. And over the years, that's been a growth journey for me too. I take my growth and development as a leader seriously on a very personal tip. And one of the big lessons, the biggest lessons that I've learned on the journey is that it is entirely possible for women like us, women who are leading in senior leadership, we are doing well professionally, to wake up after years of striving and pressing and working hard and studying and going for it and doing all the things, waking up feeling like we're still just a shadow of our truest potential, that we're not fully expressing ourselves as the leader that we have the potential to be. We're fine, but we're not fire. Well, that was me. I was a regional director years ago for a national public health initiative. We served vulnerable families. Really, our aim was about reducing inequalities, raising aspirations, transforming outcomes. I was controlling a big budget. I was deeply passionate about the mission, had a good job title, good pay, my family were proud. By all intents and purposes, I was doing well. This was it. But then I began to wake up to this mounting dissatisfaction on the inside of me. I wasn't making the kind of difference that lit me up anymore. I knew that there was more for me to be. I was frustrated with the way that we were doing things, the way that we approached tackling inequality. I could see in my thinking, at least, that some of the ways that we were going about things, some of our approaches, some of our policies were actually part of the problem that we were trying to solve, right? And I ached for real change. I wasn't really fully expressed as the kind of leader that could speak up about the change that I wanted to see. I wasn't lit up in leadership and I wasn't powerful. I wasn't expressing myself powerfully. I was plodding along in the politics and the pushbacks and the isms and the schisms and the pressure and the prejudice. Don't get me wrong, it was fine. That was like normal. That's a normal way that it was in leadership back then. I was fine, but I wasn't fire. There was a gap between, who I was being, how I was showing up, and who I had the potential to be, who I knew that I could be as a powerful leader. And I didn't know how to show up powerfully in that environment. I was one of many leaders in a big machine, and it just felt like I didn't know how to use my power, use my voice in that space. So I just stuck at it for years. It's easy to go on like that for years, isn't it? Because I was fine, really fine. I was doing well according to normal standards, doing well according to my to expectations. I was doing my job, right? But I was also suppressing and depressing and ignoring the the sound on the inside of me that was saying, there's more for you to be, there's more for you to do, there's more for you to say. I'd invested a lot to get to that place. So I feel like I just didn't want to rock any boats. I didn't want to change things. Like I spent a lot of energy getting to where I was that I felt like I needed to keep it the same. But there was this mounting realization that there was much more for me to be and say, that I was positioned, but I just couldn't show up. And I I could see the change that I wanted to see, but I didn't feel like I had the clout, didn't feel like I had what it took to be part of the voice that would change things. And it was like there was this invisible, controlling force that said, Dion, do your job. Don't get any fancy ideas, just do what's expected. Don't be getting any don't be getting above your station. You're not the type of leader that sets the agenda. Those are for those other people. Like you just get on, you do your job, you meet other people's expectations. That's what I did back then. The voice said to me, who do you think you are trying to change things? Who do you think you are thinking that you know the answer and that you have things that you want to change things? There's so much more I could tell you about this story, but I want to stick a pin here because I realize that so many of us as women in leadership, in senior leadership, find ourselves in this very space. Maybe you're there right now, you're positioned to make the difference, but you're struggling to show up with that power, that presence, that prominence to make that difference. You're doing your job. You're doing your job well, but you're sensing this deep, visceral inner calling to the work of your life, to the difference that only you can make. You're feeling unsure about the next level. You can feel the next level calling. You're wondering about your new next chapter. You're longing for the next, but you're not sure about how to go about that. Do you relate? If you know what I'm talking about, I think that's a sign that we go together. I've been developing my body of work over the last nearly 2 decades, and I call it sovereign intelligence. And what I've learned is that back then, the Dion back then, it wasn't that she wasn't powerful. She was. It wasn't that she wasn't leader material. She really was. It wasn't that she didn't care about the mission. She did. But I was also realizing now that I was unconsciously double-minded and deeply programmed in my sense of self. There was really fundamental, unconscious flaws in the way that I thought about myself as a leader, thought about myself as an influential voice. I was double-minded about my right to be at the table. I was really unsure about my right to bring challenging points of view. I was a little version of myself. Now lovingly call that version of me little leader with the slave girl mind, because honestly, that is how I was showing up. That is what was going on the inside of me, really unconsciously, but still very real nonetheless. And I've been on this amazing self-development journey. I've been on a leader development journey, and I've been learning about Little Leader and about how she came to be and about how she was shaping my experience and my performance as a woman in senior leadership. I've been learning about how to ascend out of Little Leader and into higher versions of myself, stepping into my sovereignty, embodying my highness, tapping into my divine nature, and then from there leading. Like it's a whole different kettle of fish when you lead from the higher self. And so now it's my work to help women all over the world, CEOs, directors, and heads, to do exactly that, to embody their highness, to step into their sovereignty, to lead from their higher selves. And I do this because we need your highness. We need your sovereignty in leadership at such a time of this. You have to be living at the bottom of the ocean somewhere to not know that something's up. There is this great big shaking in our world, and I believe that this is a senior leadership issue. The world needs a new senior leader sound, a new frequency in senior leadership, a new response, a new senior leadership response. And that means that senior leaders, those of us who have really worked our way through this system, now need to get ready to bring new aspects of our leadership, new aspects of ourselves in a more powerful, presenceful, and prominent way. And if this is speaking to you any at all, I say that's a clue that you're one of those leaders being called into this new level, new dimension of senior leadership. That it's time for you to rise up into this new level of your divine nature and to prepare for more power, prepare for more presence, to prepare for more prominence so that you can lead in the way that you're required and the demand is for you to lead right now. So, if this is speaking to you any at all, then once again, I'm glad that you're here. I have written a guide called The Future of Senior Leadership. I've written it for us as women in senior leadership. I think it's time for you to download this because it's time for a new kind of powerful expression from you as we lead in this new season for business, in this new day. I think you were born to change our world and I was born to support you. And this guide is going to really help you to just get your head around that, like asking questions like, what does that mean? What is the future for senior leadership? What is this new day that's dawning? And what's required of us as women leading in this space? So I want to thank you again for stopping by. Find the link around this video, download the link. And hey, listen, if you like what you read or if you have great takeaways, then let me know. I'd love to keep the conversation going. Thanks again for stopping by.